Hello, I'm FX Toycat, and Minecraft's random sea glitchless world record was just beaten. This is where you load up a random world that you've never seen before, and you have to get from the start to the end, having defeated the dragon, and in the case of Drip's new run, this was done in 7 minutes and 1 second, which is wild. It's even wilder that there's some controversy around him using some unapproved anti-crashing mod, and so there is, some questions about whether it should be approved on the leaderboard, apparently, but what's interesting to me about this is the fact that one of the great equalizers of Minecraft, where you start a new world and you have to chop down wood, has finally been broken because when he needs wood in this run, he just blows it up because it's faster to get TNT and to detonate it than it is to chop down wood. That sounds wild, but let me explain to you the broader implications of that, because it used to be the Minecraft world record was pretty competitive between Java and Bedrock. At some points, Bedrock held the record, in general, Java did, but it was one of those things you could do on either version of the game, but over the last couple of years, it's gone really heavily in favor of Java because there are so many techniques that are just only possible on this version. Indeed, I would go as far as to say that if you want to get the random sea glitchless world record, it is now impossible on Bedrock, and today I figured it'd be fun to explain exactly why that is, and while doing so, I get to show you this absolutely insane world record run. Wait till you see where the nether portal is placed later, but for now, let's talk about the very basics and the beginning. What exactly is each of these seeds being loaded up to look for? You'll be surprised to learn that the answer is a beach. That's right, the reason that the run starts in this small vertical window that looks like it's Subway Surfers gameplay is because they're loading up many Minecraft seeds at the same time using some Java software that's colloquially called the wool, and they use this so that they can try and find seeds that have a beach, ideally you spawning close to the water in one of these. This is the absolute worst type of spawn for a casual survival player, so why is it the best for a speedrunner? It comes down to one very simple answer. It is Minecraft's smallest structure, the buried treasure. Usually a buried treasure requires finding a treasure map and then going to the red X and digging down. This can take minutes, but if you use the debug menu, which is a Java exclusive in its own right, it will show you this pie chart, and when that pie chart goes orange, you know there's a lot of entities in that, which can include things like spawners, mobs, or chests as an example, and so when this orange slice is bigger, you know there's probably a chest in your chunk, and given that chests are in a very specific place on Java, you just have to dig down in that chunk and you'll find a chest just as Trip does right here, and this chest is then made up of loot, which is much better on Java on average than Bedrock. This is one of the weirdest things to be different between versions, but did you know that on Java, these are the chest loot potentials, notably a 99.4% chance of getting iron, something that is very useful for buckets and almost double the Bedrock odds, but also a 75% chance of getting cooked fish when Bedrock has a 0% chance. This is wild and means that although Bedrock might be the big salmon platform, Java is the big cooked salmon platform because you can start a run and be 20 seconds in already having 4 cooked cod and 4 cooked salmon. And I think at that point it would be fair to ask, why is it that Bedrock has much worse odds, not just for these incredibly valuable items, but also for TNT as well as diamonds and gold? Well, it's because there are extra pieces of loot you can find only in the Bedrock chests, so this is a weird Bedrock exclusive that sort of holds it back. But what are those exclusive pieces of loot? Well, they're incredible items that are really good with speedrunning, except I'm just kidding. It's chainmail armor and it's the potential for a music disc. So interestingly, because Minecraft Bedrock has extra features, it's actually worse for speedrunning, and there's a kind of inverse situation as the TNT comes invaluable, because you might notice as they bring the TNT, they're going to chop down a tree, but using this explosive block. And on Bedrock, this isn't a very good strategy, because if you are to blow up, say, 2 full trees, 12 separate pieces of log, you'll probably only get about 3 logs on Bedrock, whereas on Java, you'll see that this exact same run by Trip has him get 12. Why is this the case? Well, it's because when he blows up the trees, he has 100% chance of getting every single entity/tile that he drops, whereas on the Bedrock version, this is only 25%. This is a very weird discrepancy, and it's honestly one of those odd parity changes, because to my mind, it seems as though there must be somewhere in the code where they've written down that, yeah, when you blow up a block, there's a percent chance of getting it back. Why not just up that percent chance to 100? There's got to be either some programming reason, or they just don't think it's important, but it means that if you are to blow up trees, this is the fastest way to do, or rather, if you want to get some wood, the fastest way on Java is like this, and the fastest way on Bedrock is like this. But anyway, once he gets that going, he then is going to craft this to, let's get some live run here, and let's show you that he uses the wood to craft himself a boat, which is very normal, but he also uses it to craft himself 3 doors. This is kind of unthinkable on the Bedrock version. You might be at this point even wondering, what's he going to do with this? But the answer comes down to another Java exclusive, or rather, again, kind of lack of a feature on the Java version when compared to Bedrock, because interestingly, waterlogging was never fully implemented on Java, and so the way that best to make a portal is to find some obsidian, which means where the water from the ocean has hit a lava pool, and then to try and make a big dig through it, then use the doors to make sure that lava nor water can get in, and then that was a portal that was just created right there. I'm going to play that back for you in kind of slow motion here, because if you look back through this, it seems absolutely insane that could work, but somehow it did. So now we're going to go through this at 0.5 times speed, or, you know, we could go even slower than that, but I think at 0.5 times speed, you'll see this is still very impressive, because every single place and movement has to be carefully considered to make sure that lava is hitting water at just the right moment, and then also he's immediately using the blended steel. This being done in a tool-assisted speedrun would be pretty impressive by itself, but this is something he's doing on a random seed he's seen for the first time, because he's trying to clear out lava from a place so he can have the lit up 3x3 inside of a portal, while also trying to make obsidian everywhere else, meaning he needs to get water in exactly the right places, and it really is impressive. Every time I watch this, I'm like, wow, that is a crazy thing. But let's go into the Nether now. A fun thing about Java is there are two times you'll notice. There is the real time, which is the top right one, and then there is the in-game time, the one below that. Unlike on the Bedrock edition, where in general it's accepted that real time is the measurable statistic, on Java they only measure the time it takes to beat Minecraft as the time in the game. If you're in the settings menu and the game isn't running, then it doesn't count towards it, and so right now that's not a big deal, but you'll notice there's a few strategies that would never be done for that reason. This isn't a parity related thing, it's just you know, how speedrunners do it thing. But yeah, this is some really impressive offhand movement right here. He has a gold block in his left hand, which means he's going to be able to immediately place that down and mine it in the same action. He doesn't need to switch from his gold block to his pickaxe, because you can have two items out on Java. You can't do so on Bedrock. It's not a big difference, but it is a fairly notable one. It's also worth mentioning that because this is a 1.16 speedrun, that actually, as you're looking through this, it is using older drop rates. It's a very common thing to speedrun older versions of Minecraft Java. It's not a full exclusive, but Java has a launcher where you can play old versions, whereas the Bedrock version has one version of Minecraft, the current version, and playing older versions is possible, but discouraged to say the least. And so, yeah, whereas the Java version, you buy the game, you get to play whatever version you want. It's a very different thing. Anyway, with that said, let's now mention what's going on here, because he's looking for as much gold as possible, because he wants to get as many trades in as possible. Even though he's in an older version of the game where pearl drop rates are massively increased, you still need to make sure that if the odds go against your favor, you can have a good run, and spawning into a bastion here is really, really nice, but he still needs to find a nether fortress, and if you were on Bedrock at this point, you could be in for a solid 10-minute search. If you got really, really lucky, at this point you could be really hoping that, like, okay, maybe there's a nether fortress like a few hundred blocks away, and, you know, like, but at that point, by the fact that you spawn into a bastion, it's probably not actually going to happen. However, something interesting that you can see here is he drinks his fire resistance potion, throws an ender pearl, and then within just a few hundred blocks, something very weird happens, because he throws just two of his ender pearls, which he has more of because he's playing an old version of the game, but he's ended up directly at a nether fortress. I really like this next throw. This is just a really good skill movement, it has to be said. It's something that's hard to pick up, as like how to throw ender pearls exactly perfectly, but something interesting is the fact that he does find this nether fortress at all. How he deals with these blazes is very unique by itself, but the fact that he could find a nether fortress so close to a bastion on a random seed might seem like this is insane luck, but it's actually a Java exclusive. Here's a crazy fact you might not have known. This is the seed from that he used from the very same video. It's linked in their description. It's an impressive thing, but you'll see that if you look at this seed, there are lots and lots of nether fortresses found around the server. Now let's use the exact same seed on Bedrock, and you'll see something interesting, which is that there are much fewer. So this next little moment isn't a Java exclusive, but it is just a very cool set of ender pearls. Being able to heal up this quickly is a very nice feature of Java, but the fact that he got those pearls right to begin with is amazing. But before we watch him kill blazes in an interesting Java unique way, I also need to mention the fact that he found a nether fortress to begin with is a very impressive thing, but it's not just a bit of luck, it's also a bit of Java exclusiveness, because this is the insane level of difference that Minecraft, Bedrock, and Java have. There is a bug, or perhaps a programming intention, on the Bedrock version, which means nether fortresses are much rarer. And so behind me, I have, this is Chunkbase. It's a tool you can use to find any structure on a given seed, and this is the Nether Fortress Finder. So using this Nether Fortress Finder, I can type in the very same seed from this speedrun and show you how many nether fortresses there are. You know, there are some dead spots like right here where you won't find any nether fortresses, but you'll never be more than a few hundred blocks away from one. But this exact same seed at the exact same coordinates, if we go to Bedrock, you'll notice the number of nether fortresses fortresses goes drastically down. The dead spots between fortresses increase therefore, and also the average distance from, say, a bastion to a nether fortress, the two crucial places to go beat Minecraft, are drastically increased. This is a weird part of nether spawning that I've never understood why it's not a priority to fix. The nether is actively harder on the Bedrock version, and it's not just because of this. I mean, having to go double as fast sure is hard too. The fact that there are way more mobs spawning on the Bedrock version nether because of another bug is very interesting, but even more interesting than both of these intentional design decisions, you might say, is the fact that using just this cooked cod, it's not the best food in the game, but look at the health bar on this stretch again as he throws his ender pearl, or rather as they throw their ender pearl. You can see they're at 6.5 hearts, and then because they ate very quickly, they've gone down to 3, but then back up to 5 in that short of a span. Again, just to remind you, so they're on 5.5 hearts right now. They throw an ender pearl and get down to 3, and then as they stack up, they very quickly get to 5 hearts before fighting their first blaze. Now their regeneration is going to move to about Bedrock levels, where every 4 seconds you will have a heart, but the fact that in just 4 seconds it goes from 3 to 5 health is actually insane. The fact that you can get 4 points of regeneration in the time that you would only get 1 on Bedrock, that is actually nuts. And when you see that it happens again because of another cooked fish, you'll realize that even though Java combat has a big downside in the form of the cooldown timers, which does cost him a second or two here every time he's killing a blaze, this is made up for, or more than made up for, with both the offhand but also the much faster regeneration. If I want to ender pearl around my nether, like I always would love to, if I want to heal that up, even with cooked salmon, you can see even with the best of cooked foods available, you won't get any faster than 1/2 heart every 4 seconds. In other words, every ender pearl, if it takes 2 hearts off me to throw, is actually going to take a full 16 seconds. It's actually 2.5 hearts, so it's going to take a full 20 seconds to regain that time back. And not only is it time that you're losing, but also you're losing the potential of being able to defend yourself against enemies. This makes combat much more drastically damaging on Bedrock. The moment you come anywhere close to using up your full bar, is the moment you have to start being much more cautious about how much you're precisely using. And so even though throwing an ender pearl to get to your fortress to start killing blazes seems like a good idea, it ultimately might result in your death. And so this is incredibly impressive gameplay, but part of what allows it to be impressive is that they're allowed to take so many risks with their health because they have the ability to heal them up later if they need to. At this point, by the way, I should mention, this is one of the insane speedrunning skills you need to know, and Drip does it excellently here. They have enough obsidian to go back to the overworld, and they could hope that they'll end up in a stronghold, but what they do instead is something really fun in my opinion. So they place down a boat, they sit in the boat, they craft an IF ender, and then they throw it out into the wild. This is a very strange strategy, and you might be questioning what's going on there, and also why there is such a zoom happening at this exact moment, as well as RetroPog following. Congratulations, Drip, on your new follower there. But you'll see that they're looking directly into the eye. The reason for this is because the calculator that they'll use to find the stronghold requires them to have a very good lock-on where the IF ender is, get a very precise movement of where that line is, and then it can calculate from there where the nearest stronghold is. This was a controversial thing when it first came to the speedrunning scene in 2021, but it's now a widely accepted part of Java speedrunning, whereas on Bedrock you just dig down to try and find a stronghold. You've got about a 1 in 10 chance, or it goes up if you know where your IF ender is going, but the point is to say that something that could be a run-ending feature, ending up in the overworld and being nowhere near your stronghold, is something that is no problem if you're on the Java version. By the way, they've just switched out to salmon. Love that. So yeah, as well as once they get through here and get some more blaze rods, which you might need based on where you're going, they throw an ender pearl blind into the nether, or semi-blind into the nether, knowing that they've got a direction they've got to head in, and they've got an exact set of coordinates they need to head towards, which is absolutely wild to say. It's absolutely crazy to imagine, but it means that they know exactly where they need to place a portal, and so this right there is where they place it. They make a big void in the middle of nowhere, and then they use one of the fire charges they traded with to make a nether portal that they're fairly sure will end up directly into the stronghold. Because the IF ender calculator told them exactly where their stronghold would be, they could use a portal to precisely get there. But also they use the F3 menu once they're here to find where the silverfish spawner is going to be, which tells them exactly where the portal is, and so after a fun bit of finagling around a surprising number of silverfish, they get their way in the end portal, and now consider they're in the end at 6 minutes real world time, or just 5 minutes and 46 seconds of in-game time, meaning they have a couple of minutes to defeat the Ender Dragon and get a new world record. The things and the nerves on their mind must be wild at this point. The reason they've been running the game thousands of times is to get to this precise moment, and how's it going to go? Well, it's worth mentioning that the world record is how it is because of a series of insane runs, one after another, after a big break in 2020 and 2021, where obviously speedrunning got more popular. Wow, lots of things on the internet that involved hobbies sure did get more popular during those years, but what brought an end to a new record every month or so during this period was Brentilda's insane 9-minute 36 record, which broke not just the 11-minute barrier, but the 10-minute barrier on Java for the first time ever. This brought Java back into the fold in a massive way, and it's crazy to look at because this was the only run you can see for the entire top 50 of the leaderboard that isn't using a modded client in some way. It is full vanilla Minecraft, but it's also controversial for a few reasons, which to summarize, reason one was that they loaded up a world and then continuously paused the game using F3 and escape so they could see the whole world and look around it and strategize without having to waste that valuable in-game time that they use to measure these runs on Java. Also, at 8 minutes and 10, using an insane, crazy lookup between the fossil generation of the Nether and the overworld strongholds. By pausing the game and looking it up, they were able to take advantage of actually spending as long as they wanted here, but also at 9 minutes and 26, they went through the portal and freaked out when they realized that they were in a stronghold and that this was going to be a great run for them. And so at this point, they know they're freaking out, they might have a world record, and so they paused the game solely to gather their nerves. Many people say that actually the spirit of speedrunning is meant to be these nerves that you get at the end, and that this was an entirely silly run. However, the record did stand after a new bunch of rules, but it maintained its top of the world record leaderboard and was thought to be unbreakable until it was in 2022 with a 9-minute 8-second run. This was really pushing the boundaries. Breaking 9 minutes shouldn't be possible, but then someone did. Just 6 months later, Seiji Enderman got a new record of 8 minutes 36 seconds, and then just 3 months later, Dugile got a 8-minute 15 run, and then for the first time ever, Xylanox, currently the world record holder, has 7 minutes and 45 seconds. This is precisely what is in Drip's mind. They could be the new name on that board, and they could do so by a substantial amount if this goes according to plan, but ultimately it's down to RNG. They need to perform the best they humanly can while also being fully aware that this could go entirely poorly to something that isn't their fault, but they've got to put in their best effort, and that is precisely what you'll see they do. So now that they're in the end, they adjust a bunch of settings, as many Java players do. They throw an ender pearl to get in there as fast as they humanly can, and they put to work as fast, once they, so there's two ways you can kill a dragon. One is to try and hit the tickle spot. This is insanely unreliable, or a more reliable way is this classic bed strategy, and so for one last parity difference, you can have beds explode in the end on the Bedrock version. It does still work that way, but you won't do nearly as much damage, and so what they do here is using beds to kill the ender dragon, but it still requires the dragon to perch, and she is much less prone to doing so on the Java edition. The weird things and strategies you have to use to get it down are really, really weird to me, as you can see right here. This is almost basically accepting that at this point the run might go poor, it might just go by the wayside. They've still got a full minute though, so they're not feeling too terrible, and then they see, oh, the dragon's going inwards a bit. That's interesting. Is that, oh yes it is, the dragon is flying in. They know if all they have to do at this point is get their beds off one after another, 5 in a row, and that ender drake will be dead. And what do you know, bed 1, it works, bed 2 also works, bed 3, bed 4, and bed 5 at the same time. Wow, that is the dragon defeated. Now the only question is, how long does it take for the portal to spawn in? And just after 7 minutes is done, at 7 minutes and 1 second of in-game time, there is a new world record. Except actually, fun fact, there's not. This run was not approved, and so currently the former world record holder, who is still at the very top of their game, is actually Xylanox, because if you are to play and you want to get a speedrun world record, you are allowed to use certain mods. They are widely accepted. However, a mod used in this run to stop crashes is not approved by the moderators. Because of all of these weird runs from the Brentilda pausing the game and taking advantage of in-game time, from the infamous, green man who maybe used some mods and didn't declare them, there are very strict rules about what you can do to your game. And although it's wild to me that, for example, you can use ifender calculators and you can use all of these things entirely legally to modify your game and make it more friendly to speedrunning, if you want to stop it from crashing, that's not okay. But it comes down to, at some point, this weird thing that the Java edition leaderboards have trapped themselves in, which is to say that there are some weird janky things that are okay because they're entertaining, but there are some weird janky things that we can't possibly verify, or we might have to one day unverify and remove the integrity of the entire board. Effectively, every rule that you set and every law that is written and every company policy needs to be written in such a way where you either say that this can be bent went upon the will of saying, well, it doesn't really feel like it's a crime or a rule breach here, at which point you're effectively saying that it is just a morality-based system, a vibe check. If you fail the vibe check, then you are cheating, or you are going to prison, or you are being fired from a company, or you can go the other route of saying that a rule is firm and in place no matter what the reason. If you fall afoul of the wording, then you are in the wrong. This is a big scholarly debate in the real world as to whether you should read the words of a law or whether you should read the intent of it. In reality, because of the legal system that exists in most of the world, if you are English speaking at least, if you break a law, it is not a guarantee that you will face the punishment for that crime, because there are exceptional circumstances where it's allowed. But in the same way, you might argue that speedrunning should do something like this, and indeed the community largely thinks this, but the speedrunning moderators, the people who update the leaderboard, the people who effectively are determining who is a record holder, are saying no, and that is where we're at for now. Will this run be broken? Almost certainly, though. This is the interesting thing. I think if this was the true 1 in a trillion chance of this happening, you might say this is crazy, but what else can we do? But if you're into speedrunning, you probably noticed during this video that there were quite a few awkward crafts. At the beginning, there was easily a second lost in the various crafting phases, and add to that the fact that each of these ender pearls could have been more efficient. There could be a better seed which required less time and less effort. You could immediately end up inside of your stronghold if you got lucky. It is possible for Minecraft to break the 7-minute barrier, and the fact that this run almost did proves that Minecraft speedrunning is going to break more and more barriers on these random seeds. In my opinion, there's a bit of controversy about the fact that to do so, it's going to require more and more mods to the game, which moves it further away from speedrunning actual vanilla Minecraft, and instead further towards playing a version of the game which is years old at this point, and then modifying it even further each and every year. I do think that a part of me finds this to be, different and weird, but I always want to be clear that this is just my take, my opinion. This run is still incredible. You can't take that away from Drip. Well, unless you're the Minecraft speedrunner moderators, but you can't take that away from the speedrunner here. But you can say that there's an interesting case for Minecraft is always evolving. So what does it mean to speedrun it? In the case of the game's leaderboards, for both Bedrock and Java, they have to separate it into several categories because it was easier to speedrun in 1.16 than before 1.16, but it's easier to speedrun in 1.16 than in any version since. To compare to this 7-minute 1-second run to Java and a 8-minute run for the Bedrock version of 1.16, the fastest 1.20 run on the leaderboard is currently a full 16 minutes and 38 seconds. It takes double as long if you play in a newer version because of the lack of ender pearl trading and all of these other differences, but ultimately it means that there are different types of speedruns for different types of viewers and different types of speedruns for different types of runners. Do you want to see a particular version of the game cracked to its extreme, or do you want to see the evolving game going through speedruns? The ultimate cool thing is you actually get to decide, and I think that's something beautiful. I love that about this speedrunning hobby, and that's why it's something I follow and why I'm so excited whenever a cool new run comes out. One more time, congratulations to Drip. You are the true Java Edition Random Seed Glitchless world record holder in my eyes, and indeed many in the community agree with that. But that's all we can say at this point. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you to go out and beat some Minecraft. If you haven't done so before, do check out my video on 101 tips to help you beat the game, because I do think January is a good time for lots of people getting into the game, either freshly, because they haven't ever got a copy, maybe got one for Christmas, or because they're getting back into the game. So I'm going to be giving a few more tips to help people who look at this and think that is basically a different game, and hopefully you enjoy coming along for the journey. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you'll enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.